So today I'm doing it. I'm making the video talking about my OCD. It's nerve-wracking a little bit. Hello beautiful souls and welcome back to my channel. As I mentioned in a little prelude to the video, today's video is going to be another one of the episodes in my Living With series. If I'm not mistaken, this will be episode trace of the Living With series, and this episode is going to be living with OCD and perfectionism. Might as well talk about them both because they kind of go hand in hand. If you hear in the background, my lovely, beautiful pit bull puppy is loudly chewing on a bone. So if you hear that, I don't want to stop her. She loves to be in here with me, but just ignore it. Sorry about the lighting change there. If you notice, there's a weird lighting. Once I move into my new apartment in the middle of August, I will hopefully, fingers crossed, have a better lighting system worked out because I know that this is a very yellow light. These are white walls, but they look gross and yellow, and I hate white walls, and two, I hate weird lighting, and here I am making videos for y'all with nasty ass lighting. Without further ado, we will get started into the video, living with OCD and perfectionism. So what is obsessive compulsive disorder? In a nutshell, the DSM defines obsessive compulsive disorder as obsessions, compulsions, and then these obsessions and compulsions cause you marked distress, and you know that they're not normal. What are obsessions? So obsessions are recurrent and persistent thoughts, impulses, or like mental images that cause anxiety and distress to someone. So I often have a lot of obsessive thoughts about things. I tend to have obsessive thoughts about food, and as I mentioned, OCD and eating disorders are often related. They often do go hand in hand, but just because you have an eating disorder doesn't mean you have OCD, and just because you have OCD doesn't mean you have an eating disorder. Growing up, I also had a lot of recurrent and persistent impulses, like I needed to organize toys a certain way. I had to touch the buttons on a remote a specific way with both fingers. I had specific routines that I would need to do in a certain way, and I still do have a routine, but I'm more flexible about how that's done. When I was younger, I noticed a lot of impulses that were obsessive. As I've aged, they've simply become obsessive thoughts. So, like I said, I still do have a routine. If I don't complete everything in the routine, it does cause me anxiety sometimes because I feel as though I've ruined my whole day. My whole day is wasted, which is very silly. But that is what my brain jumps to. Oh my goodness, you didn't play the ukulele for 15 minutes because you were in Ohio. Well, your whole day is ruined. In obsessions, the thoughts, impulses, and images are not just worries about real life problems. They can sometimes be worries that like someone's standing outside of your window trying to come in and kill you when you have no reason to think that that's happening. I don't have that issue. I was just trying to relate. But I did have something kind of similar growing up where I believed wholeheartedly that Beetlejuice lived in my basement. And so I couldn't go down to my basement because I believed Beetlejuice was down there, and it made me so anxious and scared to go down there. And a lot of kids have this, okay? So I'm not that abnormal. I didn't see Beetlejuice. I couldn't see him. I just thought he was down there. I just thought that if I went down there, he'd be down there, and maybe I watched Beetlejuice too young. So maybe this isn't even like an obsession, but it became an obsession because every time I thought about the basement, I thought Beetlejuice was down there, and I got really anxious about it. It was correlated with anxiety, and it just wasn't good for me. Nowadays, these thoughts are about real life problems like my weight, finances, student loans, but I take them out of proportion. So I'll go from, oh, you owe $250 in student loans this month, to, oh fuck, I'm gonna be homeless because I have so much money in student loan debt. I can't believe that I'm gonna be homeless. And so it jumps and leaps from something that is sensical, you know, oh, you have this loan to pay and this might be a little bit stressful, to, well, now I'm stressed because I'm going to be homeless, but like there's no reason to believe that I'm going to be homeless. I just kind of went there in my mind. It just took me there. People often attempt to control these impulses by ignoring them, repressing them. So self-medicating is often something that they'll do. So they'll self-medicate to stop the pain, or they attempt to ignore the feeling. I often attempt to ignore the feeling by going and taking a nap, because my thoughts will be like spinning in my head and they'll spin out of control sometimes. And so if I take a nap, my mind shuts down. Well, it doesn't really, I don't think, but like I can't consciously be thinking about things, so I'm able to no longer think about those obsessions that are driving me up the wazoo, and I'm napping. And so I do attempt to like ignore, escape that behavior. And then another part is that people do recognize that these are a part of their mind, like that these are not real, like that this isn't necessarily true, but that this is what their mind is doing. Like a lot of times you feel your mind spiraling out of control. Like, I know I'm not gonna be homeless from student loan debt, but literally my mind jumped to that and now I'm so anxious about it. And then compulsion, so the compulsive part of obsessive compulsive disorder is repetitive behavior or mental acts that are aimed at reducing the stress you get from those thoughts, impulses, feelings, etc. And so it's trying to reduce that distress, and so you engage in like unlocking and locking the door 50 times. And I don't do this. So a lot of people think the classic person with OCD is gonna unlock and lock the door 50 times, is gonna wash their hands a bunch of times. And so that's like the compulsions that they're doing to try to prevent the stress that their obsessions are causing them. So those obsessive thoughts of, I have all this bacteria on my hands, I'm gonna die of an illness, etc., causes them to wash their hands. Or if someone's gonna come in and rob me or kill me in the middle of the night, so I'm gonna unlock and lock the door a million times to make sure that nobody gets in. And I'm really strange. I don't do those sorts of things. I have a really different way that my OCD manifests itself. And so I often used to not feel like I'd overthink. I would get obsessed with, do I actually have OCD, because I don't do the same compulsions that most people with OCD do. I don't pull out my hair. I don't unlock and lock the door. I don't have certain rituals when walking to the car. I don't have ritualistic speech. Like a lot of people will say a certain prayer, or will say a certain mantra as they're going to do something because they believe it brings them luck or it keeps them from something happening. That doesn't happen to me. But I have these obsessive thoughts that I overthink the whole universe, the nature of the universe, the cause of the universe, literally everything. Why am I here? Like all of these things. And it presents me with loads of anxiety, and my compulsions, my compulsive behavior has often been beating myself down mentally, beating myself down verbally, telling myself that I'm not good enough. Because I know that it's not normal, I beat myself down, and that's my compulsion, is beating up on myself. My compulsions aren't really like physical acts. They aren't things that I do. I do have some compulsions, like completing a routine and doing everything in the routine. And when I do something in the routine, it's going to be done a certain way. And so if I set aside 15 minutes to play the ukulele, you can bet for 15 minutes, the entire time, the ukulele is going to be played. And if I need to stop for whatever reason, I will stop the timer. It will not go along with the timer. So that is a very OCD thing. I want that whole 15 minutes to go towards playing the ukulele. If you can't tell, someone with OCD probably struggles a little bit meditating, because if you make a mistake, if you have a thought, you feel as though you failed, which is why it's so great for people with OCD to meditate, because we really need to challenge these inset thoughts. We have, if A happens, then we must do B, and if B happens, then we must do C, but if D happens, then we have to do E, and A can present options B or C, and here's how we continue to proceed. And that's how my OCD presents itself. And it brings me a lot of anxiety because inherently I don't want to be that way. There is nothing wrong with the way that I am, but my whole life I've told myself that there is. My whole life I've said, you're messed up in the head, you're wrong. And so I've had to get out of these obsessive thought patterns that I'm wrong, I'm messed up, I have a problem, I'm broken, because my OCD has told me that. And so I have to get out of those patterns of, am I really broken? No. But my OCD is telling me that I'm broken. And so I need to work on getting out of those patterns, and it can be really challenging. I set those patterns when I was 5 years old. I remember beating myself up, telling myself I was broken and worthless at the age of 5, and those were like obsessive thoughts that I was having because I wasn't like my peers, and I wanted to be like my peers. I wanted to be more fly by the seat of my pants, type of gal. Does that expression even make sense? I don't know, but I just wanted to be more free-flowing, and I think that that's a skill that one can work on even if they have OCD, and I've been working on it. But when I was 5, I was like, that's just not who I am, that's who I'll never be, I can't believe it, like my life is ruined and I'm only 5. And I just thought I was broken. My whole life I've lived with this thought process that I am a broken individual, and I truly believe it comes from my OCD. My OCD also presents this desire to do things perfectly. Like I said, if A happens, then B. So I know what's going to happen next because I've already overthought it. It's a protective mechanism to keep me safe. And so thank you, brain, for keeping me safe. But sometimes you can take a break. I'm fine. I'm not going to die from a wild animal attack, probably. So it's all good, brain. Take a break. But these obsessive patterns have caused me to be a perfectionist in some ways. And then in other ways, I am not a perfectionist. I do not care about certain organizational skills. My bed is never made, you can tell. My apartment is often a wreck. And one would think someone with OCD would have better skills than that. But that's because my OCD often presents itself in this elaborate mind fuck of cognitions, of thoughts about myself, about my worthiness, about life, about the journey of life, about the meaning of life, about who created the universe, and what the point of life is, and what is the best way to live life, and if I'm doing A, then I need to do B, and yada yada, what have you. My perfectionism does come out, and my OCD does come out in group projects, because if you're in a group with me, I'm going to do all of the work. You're welcome. And it will get done extremely well. And it won't even take that long. It's not like I overanalyze every little tidbit. My brain just naturally overanalyzes, so it takes like 2 seconds to overanalyze. Having obsessive compulsive disorder has shaped my life in so many ways. I wouldn't be the person that I am today without being obsessive compulsive, without having a obsessive compulsive disorder. This disorder has helped me in school. It has helped me with work. It has helped me understand people's emotions, their thought processes, their patterns of behavior, the looks that on their faces, body language, etc. It has helped make me knowledgeable in the field that I'm going into. But it has also really pained me. It has caused me to hate myself and think that I'm not worthy. It has caused me to lose out on fun times because I'm so rigid and routine making. And I know this. And so part of the problem, or part of the beauty of life, is when you know where things are that aren't 100% perfect, because we're never 100% perfect, and there are areas for improvement and growth. Where you know where those areas for growth are, you can work on them. When you're recognizing where you're not being at your fullest being, where you're not being the best you can be, you can work on that. But if you're never noticing that, it's really hard to work on. And so the beauty is that I'm able to see these things and work on them and know that, oh, this is probably an OCD tendency, this is probably OCD driven. Does this thought serve me? Does this black and white thinking, as we discussed in another video, serve me? Is this something that I can deal with without anxiety? Is this something that I'm potentially overthinking or overanalyzing, or is this compulsion or obsession, or is this a logical thought, yes or no? And then I can reason through that and come out the other side a better badass bitch. So if you have obsessive compulsive disorder, feel free to reach out to me and let me know if you have any questions, to talk to me. I am more than willing to discuss it. If you have any questions about OCD and me, want me to continue talking about it, comment below, let me know. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more living with videos, thumbs it up so that I know that you liked it. And subscribe to my channel so that you can be alerted of my content, which, as you know, I post every Sunday. Thank you for listening to me talk about my problems. I really appreciate you being there and not judging me today. And I hope you all know you are not alone and you are beautiful beings who are loved. May you all be safe. May you all be well. May you all be happy. And may you all be at peace. Bye.